First, it was Jonothan Mogbo drop-stepping in for a beastly game winner on the baseline to secure the Raps a 107-105 dub over the Celtics and a 27-point comeback win. In the very next game, Darko Rajaković drew up a brilliant playset with .8 on the clock to get Olivier Sarr a lob at the buzzer. While it's only the preseason, the Raps' play calling under pressure from Coach Darko looks stellar early on. Additionally, with how the crowd was as fired up as they were for the first game winner, and with how the squad was as fired up as they were for the second game winner, this gives the Raptors some feel-good vibes that provide fuel for the looming 82-game grind. We'll start with Olivier Sarr's game winner, which was a beautifully drawn-up play by Darko, where Sarr initially sets a flare screen for Elijah Martin, while David Roddy spaces out to half court. While Roddy decoys and Martin flares to the corner, Chucky Hepburn sets a sideways UCLA screen for Sarr, freeing up Olivier and allowing Jared Rhoden to toss a perfectly placed lob pass for the win. That play said a lot about Darko's play calling. It wasn't just clever, it was layered, purposeful, and designed to manipulate defensive attention at every level. The initial flare screen from Sarr to free Elijah Martin wasn't just window dressing. It pulled help toward the corner, forcing the defense to shift and respect the perimeter threat. Meanwhile, David Roddy's deep spacing acted as a perfect decoy, clearing out the middle of the floor. But the real brilliance came in the timing of the secondary action, Chucky Hepburn's sideways UCLA screen that flipped the geometry of the play. Instead of Sarr staying as a screener, he became the recipient, slipping right behind the defense at the exact moment they lost sight of him. Rajaković essentially inverted roles mid-play, turning a big into a lob target off a misdirection set, something you'd expect from a playoff-caliber after-timeout design. It showed Rajakovic's trust in his players to execute detailed actions and his understanding of spacing, deception, and rhythm. Every movement had a purpose, nothing was wasted. Plays like that don't just win you games, they reveal a coach with a deep grasp of situational basketball and a knack for turning chaos into choreography. Post-game, after dropping home the game winner and compiling 3 block shots in a win over his younger brother in 2024 second overall draft pick Alex Sarr, the two would do a jersey swap in a touching moment. Before that, 2 days earlier, there was Jonothan Mogbo's game winner, which was another solid playset drawn up by Darko. Again with Rhoden inbounding, this time on the opposite side of the court, it's David Roddy setting a decoy flare screen for AJ Lawson, who pops out to half court. This is followed by Mogbo ghosting a screen for Roddy before slipping inside to receive the entry from Jared and drop-stepping, then avoiding 3 Celtic defenders all in his grill. That play said just as much about Darko Rajakovic's creativity as it did about Jonothan Mogbo's poise. From a play-calling standpoint, it was another masterclass in disguise and timing. Rajaković used familiar personnel and structure, Rhoden inbounding, Roddy as the decoy screener, but flipped the action just enough to catch Boston off balance. The flare screen for AJ Lawson stretched the defense horizontally, forcing an initial switch and a momentary confusion, while Mogbo's ghost screen for Roddy created a false read that sold the defense on a potential perimeter handoff. That beauty was in the simplicity of the misdirection. Instead of running something complex, Darko trusted the setup and Mogbo's instincts. Once Mogbo slipped inside, the floor was spaced just enough for him to receive the entry cleanly and go to work. His footwork and composure in traffic, drop step, pivot, finish through contact, showed why Rajaković was comfortable giving him a late game touch. In essence, it was the perfect blend of design and execution, Darko creating the opportunity through clever structure, and Mogbo finishing it through toughness and control. It reflected a coach who knows how to leverage his players' strengths, and a young big who's quickly proven he can deliver when the game slows down and pressure peaks. With 2 preseason games remaining, the Raptors suddenly find themselves building something that goes far beyond the box score: identity, belief, and rhythm. These back-to-back game winners aren't just fluky endings, they're proof of system and structure. You can see it in how the players move, the spacing, the timing, the understanding of where the next pass is supposed to go. It's very early, but there's already a visible shift in how Toronto's approaching crunch time basketball. Rajaković has built an environment where every player knows the playbook and understands the why behind each action. That's the kind of detail that separates good teams from the ones that crumble under late game pressure. And even though it's the preseason, and we have players that may not make the roster, moments like these start to condition a team's mentality. They learn how to win, how to execute when fatigue sets in, and how to trust the guy next to them. The celebrations after each buzzer beater weren't just about the results, they were about the realization that this group is starting to believe in the system and in each other. These wins also shine a light on the Raptors' growing depth and adaptability. something Rajaković has clearly emphasized since day one. Toronto isn't relying on one or two guys to bail them out. Everyone's involved, and everyone's fingerprints are on these plays. The days of stagnant, isolation-heavy offense seem to be fading. Now there's flow, there's purpose, and most importantly, there's confidence. The fact that Rajaković has repeatedly put the ball in hands of young or fringe rotation players, Mogbo, Sarr, Rodin, in decisive moments, shows how much he values development through trust. That's not something you see every day from a head coach. Instead of protecting young players from pressure, he's putting them in the middle of it and giving them a chance to grow through real, game-winning moments. When your coach believes in you like that, it changes everything. It creates a team where everyone feels valued and where any guy on the floor can be the one to take or make the biggest shot of the night. For Jonothan Mogbo and Olivier Sarr, this preseason stretch could become a defining chapter in their early careers. Mogbo's game winner, finishing through contact, staying balanced, and finishing with poise, showed a level of maturity and physical control that's rare in a sophomore. He didn't just make the shot, he read the floor, stayed patient, and trusted his instincts. Sarr, on the other hand, displayed feel and precision, traits that speak to hours of chemistry built in practice. His ability to execute a timing-heavy lob play with less than a second on the clock says everything about his preparation and mental focus. These aren't empty highlights, they're building blocks. They tell the coaching staff that these young players can handle structured moments under pressure, not just broken plays or garbage time minutes. For a developing team like Toronto, that's huge. It accelerates the rebuild while building trust across the locker room. And when role players start producing in the clutch, it naturally raises the bar for the rest of the roster. As the Toronto Raptors gear up for their final two preseason games of 2025-26, the mission isn't just to win, it's to continue refining this rhythm. What we're seeing is a team that's learning to function as a collective, not as a group of individual parts. The chemistry, the communication, and the confidence are starting to click into place. Rajakovic's play calling has given the Raptors a late-game identity. Creative, poised, and unpredictable. Opponents can't just load up on one score anymore. They have to guard every angle, every screen, every potential slip. That's a powerful evolution, especially for a team that's been searching for a new offensive heartbeat since the Nurse Van Vliet era ended. These moments might look small in October, but believe it or not, they're the kind of habits that echo deep into the regular season. If Toronto keeps executing like this, they'll enter the 82-game grind not just as a rebuilding team, but as one that already knows how to close. And that makes them a far tougher out than most expect.